Welcome to the StoryADay podcast. This is Julie Duffy, encouraging you to be a writer today, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from the StoryADay podcast, and it is the 1st of May. Could I have arranged this any better, that the 1st of May would fall on a Saturday, the day that this podcast comes out? No, I could not. Okay, we are here after all of the anticipation and build-up. We are here. It's the 1st of May, the beginning of a month of extreme short story writing. I have just finished up doing a writing sprint with the people who are in the Challenge Plus and the Superstars groups. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can pop over to storyaday.org and look out for the Challenge Plus banner there. That means that you get more than is just on the website. If you go to storyaday.org this month, every day there'll be a writing prompt. Some of them come from amazing award-winning writers. Some of them come from amazing writers who haven't won awards yet but are nevertheless amazing. And some of them come from me, and I've been doing this for a very long time, so I've got a fair idea now of what makes a good prompt for people. One of the questions I got asked this week was, are the prompts sort of specifically designed for a particular genre? Are they very literary? Can you be used for different things? And I am very, I encourage the people who give me writing prompts to make them very flexible. They're supposed to spur a short story, not a writing exercise, not a novel, not a rewrite a scene. They're actually going to spur a short story. But they tend to be quite flexible. And I always tell people, the idea of the prompt is not that you have to write a story exactly about the prompt. The idea of the prompt is to get you going and start sparking ideas for you. And then if you interpret it very, very loosely, that's entirely up to you. You don't even need to use the prompts. They're just there if you want them. Sometimes it's easier to get going if you have a direction to go in. So that's what the prompts are there for. I also think it's fabulous when other writers share prompts, because it's like getting a little look inside somebody else's brain. And I know for myself, when I'm trying to learn to do something, the best way for me to do it is to find somebody who's doing it well and copy them, and then make tweaks until it becomes my own process. So I love getting the writing prompts from the guest prompters. And that's what's over at the main StoryADay site. But I wanted to let you know this week that I've also spun off all the content that I put together for the Superstars. So I record little pep talks and explainers for each of the prompts. I go into that question of, if you're writing this kind of fiction, maybe you'd look at this prompt this way, or maybe you look at it that way. And I do little pep talks for, okay, it's the 3rd week of the challenge. How are you feeling? You're probably quite tired by now. Here's some suggestions from my 11 years of experience doing this, of what you might do to get through this challenge or that challenge. So there's a lot of extra content in the Challenge Plus version of the challenge, which I've created for the first time this year as a standalone product. So if you would like to get video pep talks from me every day, audio downloads, little PDFs you can download with the lesson, and if you'd like to be invited to some of the writing sprints that we do, have a look out for the Challenge Plus banner over at storyaday.org. I'll put a link here in the podcast notes as well, and you can get access to all of this content. Go through StoryADay live with us. You can start at any point in the month, it's fine. You just jump in wherever you are, and you'll actually keep access to this content all year. And then when we run through the challenge again in September, you can go through it live with us again then. So it's a really, I think it's going to be a really fun thing to do if you don't want the commitment of a year-round community, but you'd like a little extra accountability and writing sprints and content, and to keep hold of that for the whole year and come back to it when you've got more time in the summer or whatever, then pop over to the site and have a look at that. Okay, enough with the adverts. I hope that you're writing this month. I hope that you've made a commitment to write a story a day, whatever your version of that is. It might be to write on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It might be to write a story on weekends. It might be, whatever your commitment is, make a commitment today, and it should be a little bit more than you're comfortable with. and it should push you a little bit because, and then stick to it. That's the other thing. Make the commitment and stick to it. Because we were talking this morning in the sprint about perfectionism. And we talk about imposter syndrome, I talk about fear, and I think perfectionism is really tied up with all of those things to make this big bundle of stuff that creates writing blocks. And perfectionism is the sort of, I don't know, the beauty pageant evil twin of imposter syndrome, because perfectionism seems like a good thing, right? You want things to be perfect. You're not being sloppy. You're being a perfectionist. It's a good thing, except that it stalls you, because nothing we do, A, is perfect, and B, is perfect at first. It's very important to let yourself have the stumbles and the misfires and the wrong turns as you explore your writing. There's no formula. I mean, I have a short story framework you can follow to get the bones of a story down, but really there's no formula for being a writer. There's no formula for writing a story, for writing a novel. Every single time you are making something up entirely new, from phonemes or graphical representation of sounds on a page. You are making the letters, you are making the world, you are making the characters, and you're trying to be original within a structure that also feels familiar enough to the reader to satisfy them. So you're trying to be like, write something that feels familiar but new. It's an incredible challenge to create a story and write it down, and trying to get it all right on the first pass is, when I explain it like that, right? You join in with me, it's nuts. But it's very easy for me to say that. It's really, really, really hard to let yourself write something that feels imperfect. Like, it can feel really imperfect. And one of the funniest things on the call I thought this morning was that somebody on the call has done StoryADay since the beginning, since 2010. And this person was just the most sanguine of anyone. They were like, yeah, but, perfection doesn't really exist anyway. Like, they've been doing this for so long that they're so comfortable with the act of creation now that it's easy to say, yeah, well, you just have to let it be bad. But that's because this person has been through it so many times. The first letting yourself write something that it feels less than perfect is a struggle. It feels icky when you're in the process, but when you finish it, you get a real sense of satisfaction. Even though the story's imperfect, you finished it, you persevered through the difficult part, and now you have something that is maybe a little misshapen, but it's a thing and you can shape it. And it's only through going through that process over and over and over again that we can begin to make an assault on our perfectionism. And keeping it going is also important, because you can do it one day, and then if you walk away from your writing for 2 weeks and you come back, that perfectionism is going to get its claws into you again. So that's part of the reason I invented StoryADay. I started it for myself, and it has hit a nerve with a lot of people, because if you're writing a story a day for a month, you can't have that level of perfectionism. You're like, the perfection is finished. If I finish today, if I write today, that's my new definition of perfect. Going through this month with us will break down your perfectionism, not for good, and it doesn't mean that it will encourage you to write badly, but it will help you manage the voice in your head that's telling you to stop writing because this isn't good. Because you're doing it with all of these other people who are also doing it, and it seems kind of crazy, but it's our kind of crazy, like it's good crazy. And everyone else is doing it, so you might as well keep going, because other people seem to be getting something out of this So not to say that, peer pressure is always good, but in this case, this will help you get over perfectionism because it's a silly challenge. You can't write 31 good stories in May. It's barely possible to write 31 stories in May. People do it, but it's a huge, silly challenge. I invite you to come along and be silly with us. And if you need help being silly, then consider joining us in the Challenge Plus, where you'll get to hang out with us and be silly all month. And when I say silly, I don't mean we don't take our writing seriously, but we also don't take ourselves too seriously. And this challenge is silly. And I encourage you to join us to help break blocks. I will say again, every year I hear from writers who are getting stories published that they started in this messy, silly month, or they finished in this messy, silly month. It can be done. And writing with that level of disregard for quality tends to inversely affect the quality of your work. If you're trying to make it good, you can block yourself. If you're relaxed and happy and just saying whatever comes, and you're sitting down every day and doing it, the quality of your writing accidentally gets better. At least parts of it. There will be a paragraph in almost everything you write that you like. Anyway, preaching to the choir, I know. So if you're sitting up in the back row over there, come a little closer. If you'd like to come on in and join us, links are in the notes. Otherwise, I hope you have a fabulous writing week, and I'm off to get some sleep and write my story. Not necessarily in that order. Keep writing. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.